Jabari Parker was that guy in high school. When you talk about somebody that had it all, the Chicago native went to Simeon High School, the same school that produced Derrick Rose and other Chicago legends. There, he won 4 state titles. He was National Player of the Year. He also was compared to the likes of LeBron James, one of the greatest to ever do it. In my opinion, he is the greatest. He was called the most complete high school player since LeBron James by Sports Illustrated in the cover story. After high school, he goes to Duke, one of the top universities that produce guys like Kyrie, JJ Redick, Shane Battier. And he had a dominant freshman year. It wasn't just a guy that was recruited to come in and give good minutes as a freshman. No, he came there to dominate. And by the time he decided on Duke, he was one of Coach K's biggest recruits ever. I mean, they had to compete with the whole nation for this kid. After that, he was drafted number 2 overall in a 2014 draft. A draft that featured a guy that he always had battles with for the number 1 spot in high school, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew was seen as more of the Tracy McGrady type, explosive scorer, 3-level scorer, elite athleticism, while Jabari was always seen as the guy that had the all-around game. He was more of the IQ player, multiple skills, guards multiple positions, comfortable playmaking and creating for others. Plus, he had the elite size, and you couldn't sleep on his athleticism. And when he got to the NBA, Jabari was cold from the jump. He had a smooth midi, strong frame. He averaged 20 points per game in year 3 of the NBA. Let's put that in perspective real quick. How many guys do you know at age 21 can average 20 points per game with only 2 years of NBA experience? That list becomes very small the more you think about it. So when he went to the NBA, everybody expected him to have a big career. And talent-wise, he was definitely on pace of having the big career. However, as we all know, his career ended up being riddled by a lot of injuries. More specifically, the injuries in the knee. Your ACL is pretty much one of the major ligaments in the knee. Without that, you don't have the same athleticism, you don't have the same explosiveness. Injuring his ACL not only once but twice did a lot of damage to his career in the NBA. What people don't realize is the rigors of an NBA schedule gets out of hand sometimes. 82 games in the course of 7 months. It comes out to you playing at times 4 games a week. Plus, depending on your coach, you may also have a high practice load. And that's one of the biggest differences between the NBA and overseas, is that overseas, you'll have 1 game per week, sometimes 2. If you have 3 games in a week, that's an irregular week. That means that there's a scheduling conflict, or they're trying to squeeze games into a short amount of time. Maybe games got postponed, whatever the case is. You practice hard, yes, but then you're not at that 110% that a game brings. Every hooper knows that the game brings a different element than practice does. So in his NBA career, I think the rigors of his NBA career plus his childhood, he was playing, 5-6 games probably in a week with the AAU schedule, especially at his generation. That's when AAU really started to take a step up. So in 2014, in his rookie season, he missed 57 games with a torn ACL in the left knee. Even though he was seen as a talented guy, he was also seen as the guy that had the big injury in his rookie year. How many times have you heard that story? And the bounce back potential is really 50-50. Sometimes you have guys that bounce back and immediately come back in year 2 and dominate. But a lot of guys, once they leave, they don't come back the same. Jabari was one of those guys that came back pretty much the same. Year 2, year 3, he looked pretty much like how he was supposed to look. Did he lose a bit of a step of athleticism? Yeah, but it's like the tiniest bit that you couldn't really notice. Then in 2017, he tore an ACL in the same knee. How that happens, I'm not a medical professional. I have no idea how you tear an ACL twice in the same knee. But I think now it's safe to say that maybe he doesn't have an ACL in that knee. He ended up missing around 1 year of play after that 2017 injury. And after that, it was never the same. The Bucks' plan to build a successful franchise moved on from Jabari being a major cornerstone to guys like OJ Mayo being the major cornerstone. Jabari got shipped off to Chicago, Washington, Atlanta, Sacramento, Boston. That same trajectory that we all saw as the next LeBron suddenly looked a little bit different. Jabari could never really regain the rhythm or the minutes. As I said before, the rigors of an NBA schedule just makes all of that impossible coming off of back-to-back ACLs. He went from being a franchise guy to a rotational guy. But then in 2023, after getting phased out of the NBA, he takes his talents overseas. And now typically NBA guys see overseas as the second option. It's not something that they strive for. However, for most guys, and this is not talked about enough, For most guys, when they come overseas, they become happier. They find peace in not only self-discovery, because when you travel the world and you experience different things, you do automatically get on that road to self-discovery because you're spending so much time with yourself. You're interacting with different cultures, learning different things about the world, about how it runs. You learn more about yourself by being surrounded by people that did not grow up like you. So in 2023, Jabari signed with FC Barcelona, one of Europe's most respected basketball clubs. They participate in the EuroLeague, which you might have heard of, which consists of the top teams from each European country. And they also participate in the ACB, which you might not have heard of. It's the top domestic league in Spain and one of the top domestic leagues outside of the NBA. While he was there, he had a quote that went viral. He said, "The NBA is a business. I want to be somewhere that appreciates me as a person." And that's what I'm talking about when I say NBA guys that come overseas, they end up finding their peace. When you're a big player overseas, you're valued in a different way. Overseas is a lot about culture, family. They look at you different. The president is going to invite you to his house, to his businesses. The fans of the club are going to want to connect with you and invite you to their businesses. The overall feel is more grassroots. It's more connected. Whereas the NBA is much higher stakes financially. So that literally feels like you're just a number on a piece of paper. When he was in Barcelona, he finally looked free, happy. He engaged again, accepted a new chapter of life coming overseas. When he first arrived to Barcelona, he averaged around 10 points in EuroLeague minutes with flashes of his old scoring touch. He came in, made an impact scoring, helped the team win cup championships, and the team immediately knew that it was a good fit. They signed him for the next season. At Barcelona, he's playing free within the system. In the NBA, sure, he had a role that was defined for most of his career, but when he first came in, he was allowed to be Jabari. Play your game, Jabari. Be a playmaker at 6'8". Take contested, difficult shots that we know you can make. As the injuries piled up in the NBA, he couldn't take those same shots. Now he's back overseas. Not only is he more experienced and more aged as a hooper, but he's got the trust in his coach. His coach allows him to take tough shots, play Jabari basketball. He accepted a role, a bench scorer with vet presence, early on in his Barcelona stint. Now he's a main player, but you can tell by the way he moves. This is the most comfortable he's looked in years. And honestly, I think the scheduling plays a big part in that too. Because overseas, as I mentioned before, if you play 3 games in 1 week, it's a long week. He does compete in the EuroLeague and ACB. So he still is putting some mileage on his body because they travel a lot in the EuroLeague outside of the country. One day you might have a game in France. The next game you might be in Turkey. That's how the EuroLeague is. But it's not the same as the U.S. travel system. Fans embraced him. His team embraced him. And to play in a country like Spain, in a city like Barcelona, which if you have ever been to Spain, you know that Barcelona is pretty much its own country because it doesn't reflect the Spanish culture of Spain. However, it's still a special environment, a true one-of-one city in the world. And you're playing elite hoops. The EuroLeague is super competitive. I'm going to be covering more EuroLeague stuff on this page. So if you like to hear about that kind of stuff and how tough it is to play and transition your game from the NBA to EuroLeague, then you might want to hit that subscribe button right now. Listen, man, not everybody is built for the NBA system, but that doesn't mean that their story is over. Trust and believe, when they come overseas, they are probably living a better quality of life than they did when they played in the NBA. Jabari found joy again by leaving the league. And that's what overseas basketball is. It's a second chance. It's a reset. A chance to get your story back on track and get your life into a place where you're finally at peace again. This move might have saved his career. If you ever thought the NBA was the only path, Jabari's story might just change your mind. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want more stories about the hoopers who took the road less traveled. Peace.